Episode 29. Jeff chased after Rose. Jeff drove the car back to school with Rachel. Rachel was going to the New York School of Hygiene near the Peston University campus. The sky had already grown dark, and the street lamps on both sides of the road had lit up. There was a unique mood in the car.
I didn't expect this car to be yours,
Rachel said with a faint smile. The flashing lights made her face glow.
What? You didn't like it?
Jeff asked. Hearing Jeff's words, Rachel turned her face toward the window and blushed.
No, I just like you more.
She said sweetly. Rachel recalled the first time she saw Jeff.
People would bully you and scold you, but you didn't seem to take it to heart. I can see the determination in your eyes. And now?
Jeff didn't expect Rachel to speak so openly about her thoughts.
Since you drive this car, it means that you are so much more powerful than Gerald and the others. But you disguised yourself so well that even I couldn't see it. Those guys can't compare to you.
Rachel spoke as she lowered her head slightly, intertwined her hands, and looked slightly disappointed. Jeff heard the feeling of inferiority from Rachel's words. It was no wonder she felt that way, as Jeff's big G was worth over $150,000. On the surface, it seemed like Jeff's family was of much higher status than Rachel's. However, Jeff's family background was much more powerful. This is what Jeff had always been worried about, the trouble his identity would cause him after it was revealed. Rachel was a good girl. Jeff cherished her as a friend.
Rachel, you've made a mistake. This car isn't mine. I borrowed it from someone else.
Jeff lied.
You borrowed it from someone else?
Rachel blinked her large eyes in astonishment.
I swear this car belongs to someone else, I swear. Otherwise I'll die a horrible death.
Jeff continued to lie, but he also felt quite at ease because it wasn't truly a lie. Technically, this car belonged to Lucy Smith.
So that's what happened. You almost tricked all of us.
Rachel laughed and felt secretly delighted in her heart. By then, Jeff had already arrived at the New York School of Hygiene. Rachel said goodbye to Jeff and walked off. Jeff drove the damaged car directly to the repair shop, and then drove back with the cab car. He stopped to have a meal in the cafeteria. It was almost 11 o'clock at night, so Jeff didn't get a chance to tell Elaine about the villa. He went back to his dorm to sleep. The next morning, Jeff was asleep when he was pulled out of bed by his roommate Joe. He washed his face and didn't say anything, as Joe dragged him to a coffee shop off campus. Susan was there waiting for them. After having a drink, Susan explained the reason she wanted to talk with Jeff. It turned out that the relationship between Rose and Ray had developed rapidly in the last 2 days. Susan felt that Ray wasn't interested in Rose, so she wanted Jeff to chase after Rose, or at least prevent Rose and Ray from getting together.
I think you should find someone else.
Jeff muttered as he thought about how badly Rose treated him earlier.
Jeff, Rose was just talking nonsense. She usually has a good personality. Last semester, the school invited her to teach in a small mountain town. So Rose volunteered to live in a town in Montana for half a month before coming back,
said Susan. This surprised Jeff a little. He could not picture Rose living in a small town.
You even brought food to see Rose last time, which proves that you're quite concerned about Rose. I don't think you want to see Rose together with Ray, right?
Susan said. As she tried to convince him, Jeff smiled shyly in his heart. The food that he had brought was not meant for Rose at all. Although Jeff did not have a good impression of Rose, he remembered how Ray pretended to be thankful but doubted his character.
Okay, I'm in.
He agreed since he did not want Rose to date Ray.
That's great. I've already told Rose that we're going to the amusement park today. Jeff, you have to make good use of this opportunity. Maybe you can take Rose down.
Susan giggled.
Will she join us?
Jeff asked as he didn't think much would come of it. With Rose's personality, he doubted that she would go if she knew that he would be there.
No, she'll come. Don't worry. You guys sit down. I'll go outside and see if Rose is here,
Susan said before walking out of the shop. At that moment, Rose arrived with her bag.
Rose going quickly. We came with Jeff a long time ago,
Susan said as she pulled Rose into the shop. Rose stood still and looked at Susan reluctantly.
I don't want to see Jeff. Susan, I know what you mean this time, but it's obvious that Jeff and I are from 2 different worlds.
Rose already knew from Susan that when Jeff had brought all that delicious food, it was from his boss at the restaurant he worked for in the city. So in her eyes, Jeff was still a total loser.
Rose, look. You're already here. It's fine if we go hang out together. Maybe if we hang out more with Jeff, you can find some good qualities in him.
Susan said as she tried to convince her. She just didn't want Rose to be with Ray.
It's not going to work between us.
Rose smiled wryly.
But I'll give you this one today. Just don't call me up for more dates with Jeff after today.
Susan's heart chilled a little when she heard Rose's attitude. The two of them walked into the shop.
Jeff, Rose is here. Why are you still standing there?
Susan, give Jeff a cue.
Rose, you're here.
Since Jeff had promised Susan, he tried his best to be nice to Rose.
I have a last name, so next time you can address me as Miss Wayne.
Rose didn't even want to look at Jeff as she proudly said this. That sentence made Jeff, Susan, and Joe feel quite awkward. Rose's attitude was still the same.
How is this going to work for Jeff and Rose? All right, let's get going since everyone is here.
Susan suggested, while Jeff and Joe also got ready to leave.
Wait, there is someone who hasn't arrived yet.
Rose said as her lips curled up into a smile.
There is someone else. Rose, didn't I tell you that only 4 of us are going to hang out? Who else did you invite?
Susan said, feeling a little disappointed. She had specifically told Rose about this, which Rose had agreed to. Rose didn't answer, but a man had already appeared. A slightly chubby boy walked over. He was wearing a shirt and a New York baseball cap.
Ray, you came.
Rose walked toward Ray with a smile and put her arm around his.
Rose, Ray is coming. Why didn't you tell me this before?
Susan's face darkened as she saw how cozy Rose and Ray were with each other.
Oh my, Susan, Ray just happened to be passing by. That's why I called him over.
Rose said without noticing that she went overboard. She cleared her throat, looked at Susan and the others and said,
Actually, I have one more thing to announce. Ray had confessed his feelings to me, so from today onwards, we're together.
Susan froze when she heard that. Joe was also very surprised and looked over at Jeff. Jeff guessed that Rose's agreement to Ray's confession must have been because she thought that Ray had helped her family. But Ray had faked his help to her. If Rose continues to believe such a dishonest person like him, she might end up suffering a huge loss, Jeff thought. Seeing Jeff's sad and disappointed expression, Rose felt very comfortable.
You dared to charge into Metro Bank like a poor loser with a muddled brain. Save it. Let's see if you still dare to think of good things in the future.
Rose thought to herself.
Now that Rose is with Ray,
Jeff thought.
There's no way I can do what I promised Susan. I need to find an excuse to get out of here. I have some things I should take care of today.
He said. Rose became even more proud of herself. Jeff looked so ashamed by his inferiority and probably felt embarrassed to stay here any longer.
Jeff, you're here anyway. And besides, we've already booked your ticket, so let's have some fun together.
Susan said as she tried to persuade him. Joe also came over to persuade Jeff to stay. Susan and Joe would feel bad if they let Jeff leave just like that.
Jeff, look at you. Susan is inviting you with such sincerity. Stop putting on airs. We're all friends. Let's hang out together.
Rose said as she enthusiastically invited Jeff.
That's right. Look, Rose said that. Jeff, you should stay.
Susan chimed in, feeling very happy when she heard Rose urge Jeff to stay. Perhaps after a day of hanging out with Rose, Jeff would steal Rose away from Ray. Rose said a few more words to persuade Jeff to stay.
All right, then I'll go with you guys.
Jeff felt a little embarrassed to be invited like this.
That's great.
Rose clapped her hands and jumped up.
This way, when we're doing stuff, there will be someone who will watch over our bags for us.